Today we're taking a deep dive into the Anvil Carrack, one of Star Citizen's most iconic ships. As a longtime Carrick owner, I've flown this vessel through thick and thin, and I've got a lot of personal insight to share. Everything from nostalgic admiration to grounded criticism and cautious optimism for its future. Now let's chart a course into the Carrack's legacy and current reality in the verse. There was a time when the Carrack felt like the future of Star Citizen. Back in 2013, before there was even a game to play, the Carrack won the player vote as part of a stretch goal. I came to Star Citizen in 2016, but I remember thinking this was it. This was the ship I'd use to explore the galaxy someday. After various production delays, it finally made it into our hangars in 2019, after years of waiting. That kind of wait creates a curse because the longer a ship is in development, the more players dream about their adventures in it. The Carrack became a symbol of possibility, sparking forum threads, fan art, and entire org plans built around a ship that didn't even exist yet. I'm guilty of this. The Carrack was my desktop wallpaper for years, and like most things in life, it can be hard to live up to those expectations. Back in 2019, large ships were no longer new. The Starfarer, the Hammerhead, and even the massive 890 Jump were already in the game. So for some players, the Carrack didn't make a splash. But for me, this was the first large ship I owned. That made it special. When it finally arrived, I was in awe, not because it was perfect, but because it existed. It was the first time I'd flown something that felt like it belonged to a larger crew. At the time, being part of the crew just meant manning the turrets, but this ship showed the multi-crew vision was clearly there. This would be the kind of ship where everyone had a place. It reminded me why I backed the game in the first place. In a lot of ways, the Carrack feels like a snapshot of Star Citizen itself. It's full of ambition, but waiting for the rest to catch up. It was something you could walk through, fly with friends, and actually live inside. Well, as much as you could without persistence being in the game. A deep space explorer with a hangar, a med bay, and a bridge that made you feel like a captain. It's easy to see why this ship is so popular. The layout is where things really start to show their age. The truth is that more recently designed your ship of choice is in Star Citizen, the better the implementation. The Carrack was designed during a time when Star Citizen's environments were more constrained, and you can feel that everywhere you walk. The hallways are narrow enough that if you've got two crew members passing through under pressure, it's way too tight. It becomes friction, as large armor and backpacks can knock players around. Newer ships like the Polaris and Idris solve this problem. Their hallways are wide enough for people to comfortably pass. It's also an issue on the main elevator from the lower hangar. Two players barely fit together without careful movement, and the rails make it all more difficult. That tightness wasn't just an aesthetic decision, it was a technical compromise. CIG wanted the Carrack to be spawnable in as many places as possible, since only a handful of locations had XL ship pads. That meant the entire footprint of the Carrack had to fit in the standard large-size pads that made Port Olisar iconic, and everything had to be scaled down from their initial gray box working on the ship. That compromise shaped the entire interior. Ships created since the implementation of personal hangars don't have these limitations, and their interiors shine with the extra space as a result. This limitation didn't only impact the interior. By trying to cram as much as they could into the large hangar volume, the ship barely fits in a large hangar, with only meters on each side for the wings, making landing way more challenging than it needs to be. Space limitations shouldn't be an issue in a game like Star Citizen. The Carrack really needs to be reclassified as receiving an extra large personal hangar ship for ease of use. For the price, it deserves it. There's also no secondary exit. It still surprises me that a ship this size only has one real way in or out on the ground. Imagine landing at a remote outpost in Pyro, your crew spread across the facility, when a hostile ship arrives. With only the front ramp, there's no quick way to regroup or retreat. One well-placed mine or a blocked ramp and you're done. That's a major oversight for a ship marketed as an explorer venturing into the unknown. When death of a spaceman arrives, it becomes a death trap. That's especially true for a ship designed for deep space operations and unknown territory where danger is part of the role. The same team would release the Mercury Star Runner a few patches later with a similar limitation, showing this was a broader issue in the pipeline at the time. If you're into this kind of breakdown, honest, hands-on, and grounded in experience, make it official and join the crew. Hit subscribe and stick around. I cover ships, systems, and the long-haul journey of Star Citizen week in and week out. Visually though, the Carrack holds up. The bridge design is still one of my favorites in the game. You get that split-level command deck with the pilot seat front and center and the giant view screen, with the command station hovering above the pilot and co-pilot seats. TV filming requirements make the idea of multi-level bridges in sci-fi a rarity. I can't think of any, but this is a cool idea. and I think it works really well. The elevator on the bridge is certainly a nod to the engineering set on the Next Generation and a nice Easter egg for the players that recognize it. The whole ship carries a subtle Star Trek influence, not just in layout but in tone. The clean floors, the restrained lighting, the way rooms are segmented by function, it feels more like a paramilitary vessel like the Federation ships, and I still respect that. The captain's ready room right off the bridge is dripping with both inspiration and function. The captain's quarters being attached to the ready room is the kind of luxury that not even Picard had. Not too shabby. The med bay is straight out of Enterprise with Dr. Phlox. There's a pretty clear inspiration from Star Trek while retaining the MRI look of the real world. It's clean, it's bright, and at the time it was released, it had the best med bed in the game. Changes to medical gameplay since then have blunted the significance of a Tier 2 med bed, as they used to be the minimum level required to respawn in the verse. That gave the Carrick additional significance and a reason to take it for missions it wasn't necessarily the best ship for, but convenience is often more important than firepower. Now any medbed works for respawning, but I don't expect that to continue once the Apollo ships are released, and medical gameplay gets fleshed out. Still, this is an excellently done portion of the ship. The engineering section is dark and gloomy, it feels dangerous and alive. That's a big contrast to the rest of the ship's aesthetic, but I think that works really well. And you can imagine players enjoying being the engineering team on the ship. It's multi-leveled, and the space is used in a way that sells the concept of working on a ship of this size. You can feel the pulse of the engines and power plant, the vibes are real. The Polaris takes this a step further and gives you the full-on capital ship implementation of the engineering section, and it's easy to see that evolution. If the Carrick is getting a rework and grows in size, engineering could use a bit of that space to further polish it. My biggest gripe is the main engineering station and console could have a better implementation, more room to move around, additional panels, etc. It's very bare bones as it is. That's one of the biggest issues. Form and function don't always align on the Carrick. The bridge looks commanding, but it's not fast to move through. Crew movement between stations takes time, and in gameplay where seconds matter, whether you're boarding, defending, or escaping, that design can get in your way. And here's the part that really shows the cracks. You walk through the Carrick and you're constantly reminded of what's missing. The drone bay exists. It has doors, a control station, a launch area, everything you'd expect, except the drones. There's no gameplay function, not even a placeholder. It's a room with a label and that's about it. We saw some early drone concepts with base building at CitizenCon, so we know there's something brewing, but it was radio silence for years before that. Same goes for the repair bay. Right now, it's just a hollow space. You can walk through it, you can imagine what it could do, but that's where it stops. There's no interaction, no point to it beyond scenery. And that hurts more than it should, because it tells you how close the ship almost is to being incredible. You can almost feel the ghosts of planned features wandering those halls. Like, I half expect a pop-up that says, "Coming soon, gameplay." Then there's the cartography room. This was supposed to be the heart of the Carrick, the place where your scans were displayed, routes were plotted, anomalies tracked and logged. It doesn't do anything because exploration doesn't exist right now. In a ship that was sold on the promise of exploration, that hurts as much as the guy waiting for data running to be a thing. Plus, the location makes no sense. It's an integral part of the gameplay loop stuck in the back of the ship, completely disconnected from the command functions. I think we can all agree that the stellar cartography scenes in Voyager and Star Trek Generations were cool. But in the game, it needs to be better integrated into the bridge. Being the guy all alone in that room isn't going to be compelling gameplay. Now look, I get it. Star Citizen is still in development, systems are being built, features are coming online piece by piece. But the Carrick has been in-game since 2019, and we haven't seen any real movement on these core mechanics. At a certain point, you stop waiting and start adjusting expectations. The ship isn't bad, not even close. But if you're going to own one, it has to be because you already like what it offers. Don't buy it because you're waiting on what it could become. That's where a lot of people get caught. They fall for the brochure version of the Carrick, the one with deployable drones, full repairs, science and exploration gameplay, the whole deal. But that version doesn't exist yet. And then you've got the Odyssey. On paper, it looks like the evolution of everything the Carrick set in motion. Bigger guns, a refinery, mining capability, more modern layout, and a full hangar to bring another ship along for the ride. It's a mobile outpost. That's the pitch. Anyway, and yeah, that speaks to me. But right now, it's just a pitch. The Carrick is real. You can load it up with supplies, grab a crew, and actually go do something. Sure, it's flawed, but it works today. If I had to bet, I'd say the Odyssey ends up being the superior Explorer, especially if it leans into the same design mindset we saw in the Misk Starlancer. Smart interior flow, better visibility, more flexible rolls, and there's no getting around how much more the Odyssey offers, at least on paper. It does almost everything the Carrick does, plus a few things it doesn't. But I can't recommend ships based on potential anymore. If you saw my review on the Mercury Star Runner, link in the description, I painfully learned that lesson. If you're buying a ship, whether it's with in-game credits or real money, it should be because you like what it already is and what it can do today. Rebalancing will happen to every ship eventually, but if you like it at its core, you'll probably still be happy with it. Any features that might come in the future are just bonuses. Now personally, I always recommend earning ships in-game. All you really need is a starter package for a great Star Citizen experience. But if you're set on picking one up and notice the Carrick isn't for sale on the RSI site, yeah, that's not unusual. It's only sold a few times a year. That's where my sponsor comes in. I partnered with the Impound, a trusted gray market site that sells ships you can't always get through the official store. And I didn't just take their word for it. I spent weeks researching them, then bought a ship and a rare paint myself using a different email, so they wouldn't know it was me. I wanted to be absolutely sure the experience was smooth before recommending them. And it was. Flawless, start to finish. If you go that route, there's a small kickback that supports the channel and helps me keep doing what I do. But as always, you can get these in-game. Never forget that. The Carrick, for all its dated quirks, still delivers a sense of scale and purpose that few ships can match. There's something about walking those halls, standing on that bridge, and seeing the crew slots fill up. It just feels right. When 4.0 launched, it was the first ship Lieutenant Chronic and I were killed in while exploring Pyro. Some jackass with a Polaris destroyed my Carrick while it was parked at an outpost. I'll remember that forever. You dick. So I'm clearly emotionally invested in this ship, but I can't pretend it doesn't need attention. And with all the systems CIG's been developing lately, the Carrick hasn't been part of the conversation for a long time. Yes, the minor rework with 4.0 to open the cargo bays, and the addition of the bridge shutter that matches the concept art means they haven't forgotten about it. But it also means you probably shouldn't buy one hoping it'll evolve much more anytime soon. If you already love it, if you know what it is and you're still in, then great. You'll keep finding ways to make it work, because you're playing with imagination. You're filling in the blanks, and sometimes that's half the fun. But if you're on the fence, or you're comparing it to something like the Odyssey, be honest with yourself. Whatever exploration is, it's a long way off. Plan accordingly. As for me, I've got the best of both worlds right now. I upgraded my Carrick pledge to the Odyssey, and I get the Carrick as the loaner in the meantime. That way, I've saved money since the Odyssey is sure to increase in price when it's released, and I can decide which ship I like better when all is said and done. For me, that solution works. Let me know in the comments how you're using the Carrick today. I'd love to hear your stories, your frustrations, or even your wish list for the future. What's your take on the Carrick these days? Is it still worth running, or have you moved on? And if you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of viewer I make these videos for. I appreciate you. Hit subscribe if you haven't already and want more of this kind of deep dive, and I'll see you in the verse.